This is a demonstration of the Su-25T training mission aircraft startup, taxi, and takeoff. In this lesson, we will practice starting the Su-25T from the ramp, taxi to the runway, and take off. Su-25T Frogfoot Training Lesson. Mission Overview. Su-25T Startup. Our start time is 1600 hours. Russian Coalition. Our flight is Su-25T. And of course our objective is to start up the Su-25T, taxi to the runway, take off. Key commands. These key commands, as you can see by the diagram to the right of the video, are mapped to my CH product HOTAS setup. Electrical power, navigation lights, canopy, left and right engine start, takeoff and landing flaps, throttle, rudder, landing gear. We have no threats. The temperature is 12 degrees Celsius or about 53 degrees Fahrenheit. Barometer 29.92. Cloud cover 2600 meters. Wind at 4 meters per second at 269 degrees. Or that is about 8 miles per hour or 8 knots. And the 269 degrees in DCS is inverse. In actuality, the wind is coming from about 90 degrees. I don't know why the briefings do this, but generally, at least in the Western world, it may be different in Russia, but in the Western world, the wind is always given in the direction that it is coming from. No turbulence. And our mission start is 1600 hours. Our instructor and narrator for this mission will be Matt or Wags Wagner of Eagle Dynamics, producer, and our Kool-Aid mixer from Eagle Dynamics. So without further ado, let's start the mission.
Welcome to the Su-25T Frogfoot. The Frogfoot, also called the Grudge, is a very capable ground attack aircraft that can destroy most anything on the battlefield. Before we start blowing things up though, let's first learn how to start up this bird and taxi to the runway. The first thing I'll ask you to do is turn on the electrical power by pressing right shift and L.
Now, before I follow along with Mr. Wagner's instructions, I would like to make a couple of comments. First off, as you see the truck driving across the ramp in front of me, the new open beta and new release version 1.5.5 is a huge improvement. Well, a great improvement for those of us in VR. Because first off, I can easily or better make out the details of the truck. Things such as the wheels, I can see the wheels turning, I can see the details of the wheels. In this video, because the video is shrunk down in size, and remember, as in VR, I am seeing things in full life size. So it's a good quality improvement in visuals. The environmental lighting effect is better. The aircraft that's doing a flyby right now is much easier to see in detail. I can easier see him as he flies by. I can see him make the left bank and turn off, which in 1.5.4 was really difficult to do. But in 1.5.5 it's much easier. The environmental improving makes the sighting of objects in the distance easier. It makes it a little bit easier to recognize them. And even now, as I watch the Su-25 in the distance, again in the video you may not be able to see it, but from this distance in 1.5.4 it would be impossible for me to see that Su-25T. And one of the reasons is because with the improvements of 1.5.5 and the new Steam VR beta dated November 14th, with the Astroneous time warp, if I pronounce that right, is I could up the anti-aliasing, the MSAA, to a variable of 8. I was able to up the pixel density, or the multiplier, by a variable of 1.4. And these really helped in virtual reality with the Vive. So, with those comments aside, let's get back to our lesson and listening to Wags give us instructions. First off, this is the Su-25T. It's the free version that comes with DCS World, but it is not a clickable cockpit. Normally, our battery switches are over here on this panel, which I can't click them because it's not a clickable cockpit. But our battery switches and our generator switches are over here. So normally in the clickable cockpit, we would activate these switches from here. So another thing is when I turn the electrical power on, this angle of attack vane is going to go up, is going to be blown by the wind. And in this Su-25T, whether it's supposed to be or not, it's not inhibited with weight on the wheels. So we'll be getting a very annoying audible stall warning with the light right here. And that is because the vane is being blown with the wind up into the higher angle of attack values. Alright, so let's turn the power on and we'll continue on.
With the electrical power now engaged, you can see that the heads-up display, or HUD, comes to life, as well as many instruments and cockpit lights. Before moving the aircraft, make sure that more than 3 minutes have elapsed in order to let the horizontal situation indicator gyro to align properly. Now that you have power, let's turn on the navigation lights by pressing right, Control, and L.
Alright, nav lights. And
next, let's close the canopy by pressing left, Control, and C. Our next step is to start our two engines. Before you do so, make sure your throttle controller has a 0 power setting. Start the left engine by pressing right, Alt, and Home.
And by the way, the noise you were hearing was the Mi-26 starting up. Alright.
With the left engine started, press right, Control, and Home to start the right engine.
And I will wait until the left engine start valve is closed, EGT and RPM is normalized or stabilized. Start valve closed. Good EGT, stabilized. I'll start the right engine now.
Off the lower left corner of the TV display is the engine gauge, with needles marked 1 and 2 for the two engines. When an engine is being started, one of the two green lights below the gauge will light. Once the light turns off, it indicates that the engine is ready for operation. In the lower left corner of the dash is an aircraft symbol that indicates the status of your flaps, landing gear, and air brake. Lower your flaps to the takeoff position by pressing left shift and F.
Flight 105 is airborne. That would be the Mi-26. Left engine start valve closed, EGTs normalized, and we have hydraulic pressures. Okay, there's the aircraft status indicator.
We're now ready to taxi. So slowly increase the throttles by moving your throttle control forward or pressing page up. To reduce throttle, use your throttle controller or press page down. To use the wheel brakes, press W. Start rolling forward and turn to the left of the taxiway ahead. Press Z to steer left and press X to steer right.
And let's give it about 1 more minute following the directions and caution that Wags gave us earlier, if you missed it, about moving before the directional gyro is completely spun up and warmed up. And there's the directional gyro. And while we're waiting, I will comment that this is like sitting in the real thing. It really is just amazing. So, there goes our Mi-26, and this is cool. It's life size. That's all you can say. All right, we got 3 minutes for certain, so let's start our taxi out. Test the brakes.
Ассистент, разрешаю руление на полосу 8.
Nice job. You're now heading in the right direction. Keep your taxi speed around 10 kilometers per hour, as indicated in the top left corner of the HUD. As you taxi, make small, smooth rudder corrections to keep you aligned on the center of the taxiway.
And we just have to estimate our 10 kilometers per hour because the HUD indication does not go below 80. So
At the fork, hang a right to reach the runway. As we taxi, you can go to external view by pressing F2 and return to the cockpit by pressing F1. You can zoom in and out using the keypad star and / keys. Rotate the views using the keypad directional keys.
okay, I will stop right here and I'll demonstrate in virtual reality what Matt is just talking about. As again, when this lesson was wrote, there was no virtual reality for DCS World. And doing what he says, you would think would be kind of disorientating, but it's really not. So as I'll show you.
105. Прошел по ПМ-4 на 180.
And I control my moving around with a trackball, Logitech trackball. Of course, it's really loud out here, outside the airplane. But as you see, I can move around one way, move around another. I can zoom out. I can zoom in. And of course, this makes kind of a cool way to do a sit-down walk-around. So, anyway, back inside. Now that my hearing is damaged from all the noise. Okay, so that was that, and it's not real disorientating. Now somewhere that other Su-25T I don't know if he's landed yet or he's in the pattern. I've done this mission more than once, and each time the bots kind of do something a little different. So
You've
never
now
know.
reached the runway threshold. Taxi onto the runway to the right and align yourself down the length of it.
Alright, so there's that other Su-25T. I can see him in the distance. Again, in 1.5.4, I would have never been able to see him. And I don't see him in detail, I just see that it's there. I couldn't even begin to make out what type of aircraft it is if I didn't already know what it is. It's getting closer, and it looks like he's going to land. Before, I've caused him to do missed approaches. And there it is, the Su-25T. Now, how cool is that? I could even see the smoke from his wheels. And I see his chutes deploying. Alright, that's pretty cool. And let me try voice attack via Hollywood's Viacom and see if we can get a request authorization from Takeoff for takeoff from the tower. Mosdoc 102, request takeoff clearance.
Ассистент, 102, взлет. 102. Ассистент. Взлет по готовности. Отход по схеме на 300 по давлению. 746,18.
Oh, so it worked. Cool. Didn't know my Russian was that good, huh? Not too fast.
Once aligned down the runway, increase thrust of both engines to maximum and use gentle inputs on the rudder, X and Z, to keep you tracking down the center line.
And there again, as mentioned before, and as many people know, the resolution in these first generation HMDs is basically only 1K per eye. And with normal vision, we are capable of 32K per eye. So while I think I see him still at the far end of the runway and haven't cleared the runway yet, can't know for certain. But it's just one of the technological hardware limitations that we have. And maybe by Christmas 2017, we'll have 4K or 2K per eye headsets available. So I'm going to assume that he's clear, and we'll start our takeoff roll.
Your airspeed, as indicated in the top left corner of the HUD, indicates about 250 kilometers per hour. Gently pull back on the controller and allow the aircraft to fly itself off the runway. Don't yank the controller back to force the aircraft into the air. As mentioned before, your airspeed in kilometers per hour is indicated in the top left corner of the HUD. In the top right hand corner of the HUD is your altitude in meters. Between the altitude and speed indications is your heading table. With positive climb established, raise the landing gear by pressing G.
There's our other Su-25T, and you may not have noticed, but I just saw this for the first time. On our takeoff run, you could see the tire marks where that particular Su-25C touched down on the runway. That was cool. So let's put the gear up as Wags has instructed us.
In the center of the HUD is the pitch and roll indication, and along the right side of the HUD is your pitch ladder and vertical velocity indication. Go ahead and raise to flaps by pressing left control and F.
Okay, we're showing gear up.
This concludes this lesson on starting up the Su-25T, taxiing, and taking off. You can end the lesson now by pressing the escape key.
And, whoa, a little bit of sync there. Guess it's a good thing I got the stall warning. And I'm not going to end the lesson. I'm going to continue around, make a half circuit, and do a landing. Since I've got airframe time and I've got fuel, why not? So I think what I'll do is I'll put a clip in this video right here for this mission to keep with Bunyap's rule of limiting missions to or videos in a mission to 20 minutes, and I will pick up the next part 2 of this video on the downwind leg as we do a landing with a couple more comments about VR and how just incredible it is with DCS World. So thank you for watching, and we'll pick up part 2 in a minute.